time for our next author. Are you ready for something a bit racy now?
As we start, Andy, the concierge. I should say that Andy is black in case anyone wonders about the colour references. Wayne Burns.
On the inside.
Wayne Burns, who is white. Andy is showing Wayne Rhodes about the apartment, and Andy's already got a certain sense that something might be about to happen. So he's decided to show him the luxury fur closet as one would under these circumstances.
I know I would.
So brace yourself, take another drink, here we go.
And this is the fur closet.
Andy said excitedly, heaving open the heavy cedar back door.
It's all climate controlled. It's got an air purification system. The coats have to be separated a bit so the air can circulate among them. Isn't it amazing?
The heavy door swung shut behind Wayne, who was standing, gulping, at the sight before him. On either side, open rails gleamed dully against the rich, dark cedarwood panelling of the fur closet. I have to put these bits in for my editor to realise. Illuminated by deep-set lights that were deliberately kept low to avoid damaging the precious contents of the long walk-in cupboard. It was more like a Knightsbridge furrier's boutique than a private home. Jackets, coats, capes and wraps made of Russian sable, mink, Siberian fox, chinchilla, astrakhan and blue and golden sables. Shaved smooth, don't love it, trimmed into burnout designs, dyed all the shades of the rainbow. Dasher still kept many of her coats and hats here, and her tastes around to bright colours, viridian greens, lemon yellows, glowing fuchsias, jewel tints of ruby, emerald and sapphire. Built-in drawers held fur-trimmed gloves, and along high shelves that ran along the rails were stacked an equally dramatic range of fur hats and ermine tippets, with dyed, dangling tips. Wayne walked along the carpeted floor slowly, looking from side to side.
Bloody hell! There's a lot of dead animals in here.
I know, look!
And was right at... Okay, bastard.
That's my dead coat!
You look pretty. And he was right at the end of the closet, lifting down a leopard toque from the shelf.
It's real leopard. Can you believe it?
Bloody hell!
Wayne reached, and Brandon is American doing comedy, so everyone has to.
What am I?
Thank God it wasn't Liverpool. Wayne reached out a hand and stroked the fur, marvelling.
I didn't know that was even legal. Aren't they protected or something?
Oh, this is vintage.
Swallowing hard, Andy swiveled round again, looking Wayne up and down, taking in the round pink dots of blush on his cheeks, the unmistakable swell in his suit trousers.
Now or never.
Andy told himself. Oh, because it's over Christmas, Andy is actually dressed as an elf.
Yeah.
I should have said that earlier, but there's too
I'd have
much
worn
build-up.
green if I'd known that.
Yes, you would not. Andy realised with horror that he was still wearing his elf ears. Reaching up, he dragged them off and chucked them away. Taking a step up to Wayne, greatly daring, he slid one hand behind Wayne's neck, pulling him towards him for a kiss. Wayne's mouth was narrow, and Andy's full, plump lips engulfed it like a delicious cushion. No one's kissing anyone. Delicately moist at first, and then deep and wet, his tongue sliding past Wayne's lips, filling his mouth. Wayne moaned deep in his throat, his hands eagerly clutching Andy's buttocks, pulling him as close as possible, his big, sturdy thighs parting to draw Andy between them, shoving him right into his crotch so that Andy could feel Wayne's cock thrusting through his trousers and rubbing against his own.
Fuck, that feels good.
Reaching down...
Years of watching gay porn movies, that was.
You and me both. Unzipping Wayne's trousers and pulling at his cock. It was thick and stubby like its owner. Which was a big relief to Andy. He was so turned on by Wayne, it would have been a huge disappointment if his cock hadn't been up to scratch.
And I always go for girth over length.
Andy looked happily, over Wayne's dick, and started to wet the foreskin up and down the shaft.
Well, who doesn't?
Wayne was kissing Andy like a madman now, his hands rising up to rap against Andy's smooth shell. Tilting his head up to kiss the slightly taller man, as enthusiastic as a puppy. They staggered back against a rack of coats behind them, kicking aside the fur boots neatly arranged below.
Let's get in the coats more. It's fucking freezing in here.
The fur closet's climate controls kept the interior at 12 degrees centigrade to ensure the coats were at optimum temperature and avoid the natural oils in the fur overheating. Thank you, Google. It had been...
Research! All about research.
That's what people say about Rebecca Chance. Her books are really well researched. It had been chilly for the moment the two men had entered, but their rising excitement at being alone together had heated their skin, made them temporarily oblivious to the cold. Now, however, that flesh was being bared, Wayne's trousers falling to the ground, and his following suit, they were feeling the chill. And he reared back, gasping, as Wayne pulled down his briefs and grabbed his coat with gusto, if not a great deal of skill, and looked frantically around him.
Put this on.
And he dragged a man's Russian sable overcoat from a heavy padded hanger.
But...
Just do it.
And he threw the coat at Wayne, pried Wayne's clutching hand reluctantly off his throbbing cock, and dropped to his knees. A second later, he was deep-throating Wayne, and he practically wailed with pleasure as Andy's hot, full, wet lips went through his dick. Obeying instructions, I read this with my stray husband on Saturday. Obeying instructions dutifully, Wayne shrugged on the overcoat, its weighty folds tumbling around him. Understanding now, Wayne wrapped the coat around his lover, keeping him warm as Andy sucked Wayne's cock harder and harder in his heated mouth. I'll just keep reading. Wayne's back was to the cupboard wall, the huge footballer's muscles in his thighs and calves keeping him upright. Andy ran his hands with absolute erotic relish over the hard, swollen, plump legs. The thighs only lightly hairy, much of it rubbed away by the constant moving of his exercise shorts, the calves were completely covered in hair. Above him, Andy felt Wayne's entire body go into spasm, his legs trembling, his hips locked rigid, as his cock bounced like a ball against the roof of Andy's mouth. And waited until Wayne eventually gasped a long wail of what sounded like incredulity as well as orgasm, and then gently swallowed down the big mouthful of cum that Wayne pumped. I'm not even looking at him. Wayne dropped to his knees, his back sliding down the wall of it. Choking under the heavy coat that had flopped over him, Andy parted the folds and stuck his head out the top. He was laughing, exhilarated by the sheer thrill of the sex, of sucking off Wayne, not just because he fancied him madly, but there was no denying that there was an extra frisson in servicing the most famous British footballer currently playing. But when he saw Wayne's face, his laughter stopped dead.
What?
Because Wayne looked as if someone had hit him over the head. His cheeks were bright pink, he was breathing stertorously through his mouth, and unless Andy were very much mistaken, his little picky eyes were brimming with tears. I allowed myself some Wayne Rooney description. And he caught his breath, wiggling free of the coat to sit next to Wayne. Instinctively, he took the man whose cock he had just sucked in his arms, cradling Wayne's head on his chest.
What is it? Is something wrong? I could have sworn you had a really good time.
I did. That was fucking amazing. You're fucking amazing.
He raised a tear-stained face to Andy.
I just never, almost never, I spent all of my time with all those fit blokes on the pitch, the showers, all their kid off, wandering around the locker room, tugging on their willies. And I'm always so panicked about getting a stiffy, about them realizing I want to fuck the lot of them.
And he stroked Wayne's sparse, reddish hair. He had to let me kid those bits. Kissed his mouth softly, and then his eyes kissing the tears away. Oh.
Do you not, I don't know, go to clubs? Order in something every now and then?
I don't trust anyone. You know what it's like. Every single guy I know who plays away has been dubbed by the slapper he cheated on with his missus.
They're the slappers just as much as the girls are. They're the ones cheating. Feminism!
Wayne, there's a secret message in all of that. Wayne drew in a deep, shuddering breath and sat back against the cupboard wall. Wrapped in the black, inch-thick fur coat, he looked as if he was wearing a bear costume.
Yeah, you're right. I'm worse than them because I'm faking it. I try to talk like them and sound like them, talk about chippies and slappers. Pathetic, isn't it? And the mental part is, they all take the piss out of me because I'm the only one not cheating on my girlfriend.
Chantel? Do you do it with her?
Wayne shook his head, and the relief that ran through Andy was ridiculous.
What do I care if some footballer I just sucked off fucks his girlfriend or not? What's it to me? I'll never be alone with him again anyway. As soon as he stops venting, he'll shove me away and call me a fag to make himself feel better about himself.
Are you joking? No way. I mean, she's a nice girl and all, but I'd rather shag her.
He caught himself, and clearly not wanting to be rude.
Anyway, she's a minge diver. She and Karina have a thing going.
It's funnier in American accent. A watery smile illuminated Wayne's face, making him look very young. Andy blotted the last tears from his eyes with the tips of his fingers. Wayne reached up, took Andy's hand and pulled it to his mouth, starting to suck each finger in turn. Andy moaned. We've read this 3 times before.
Tell me you're going to do that to my cock. Tell me you're going to suck me off, let me spunk in your mouth.
Wayne's face was bright pink.
I really want to, but I might not be as good as you. I haven't done it that much.
Pretend it's an ice cream.
Andy said, leaning back, dragging down another fur coat, sprawling on it, widening his legs. Deliberately, he started pulling on his cock with one hand, cupping his balls with the other.
Pretend I'm a magnum, and you've got to lick it all up in one go, so it's all gone.
Fuck, this is like being in a porn film.
Wayne said devoutly, keeping himself up, divesting himself of the sable coat with a... Quiet at the back!
This is literature, do you mind?
Divesting himself of the sable coat with a huge effort and kneeling over Andy.
The line Paul's been waiting for. God, you've got such a big dick.
Suck it all, suck my big dick and swallow every last drop.
That's a bit threatening. Sounds like there's a chance. Andy could tell that Wayne wasn't that experienced by the combination of keenness and tentativity with which he handled Andy's penis. Right now he really is a puppy, Andy thought. Propping himself up on his elbow so he could watch Wayne kissing his cock with the same wet, slightly sloppy, completely charming kisses with which he'd been covering Andy's mouth some minutes ago. The sight made something in Andy melt, a warm tenderness engulfing him. This internationally famous footballer, whose posters covered millions of Kensington's fans' walls word-wide, whose skill on the pitch was considered a gift from God, now, inexpertly, but with great concentration, trying to deep-throat Andy's cock. Who's falling in love here? Anybody else together? It was Ivana Fyodorovna, you don't know who she is, but it doesn't matter. You're fine. Pulling on a white chinchilla coat, belting it around her tiny waist. She took down a matching hat from the shelf above and settled it on her head. Andy was just relaxing in the assumption that she was all done when she paused, pivoted, and came quickly towards him and Wayne. He froze, his head still protruding around the mink coat, but aware that now he couldn't pull it back in case the movement alerted her. Awkwardly stuck at that angle, he waited, holding his breath, as Ivana walked right to the back of the closet.
Please let her not bend down to get some boots. Cher, Madonna, Kylie, I beg you, the patron saints of gay men, please let her not want to get some boots and where we're lying.
Whichever deity heard him and answered his prayers, he couldn't know. But Ivana, extending a slender arm, reached up and not down, pulling a fox fur from the shelf, the mask hanging down her back as she turned and walked away. The door swung shut again. Andy and Wayne collapsed in a tangled heap, puppets who'd had their strings cut all at once.
I thought.
I know.
We should get going. They'll be wondering where I am.
Wayne dragged up his trousers.
Yeah, of course, me too.
Andy pulled up his elf trousers.
I'm sorry, I can't possibly go to the
Off you
holy
go, darling. Off you go.
trousers.
Off you go.
Okay, now we can carry on.
Andy pulled up his elf trousers and stood up. Smoothing down his elf tunic, reaching a hand to Wayne to help him up. He was feeling the cold again after the heat rush of orgasm and fear. He shivered, and Wayne did too as he stood. They pushed their way through the coats and walked to the door. Andy knew he was being a fool, but he was wondering what would happen now. Nothing, he told himself firmly, nothing at all. We fucked, it's over, it's done. You know how this works, Andy.
Hey.
He said, wanting to lighten how he was feeling, because he had a sudden, stupidly sentimental lump in his throat.
Have you ever sucked off an elf before?
To Andy's absolute delight, Wayne, whose colour had returned to its normal pasty state, instantly went pink all over again. Andy leaned forward and planted a kiss on Wayne's lips. He meant it as a farewell, but Wayne kissed him back so fiercely that he smushed Andy's lips against his teeth.
It was ace. Fucking ace.
Andy stroked Wayne's cheek for the last time, drew in a deep breath, and dragged open the heavy insulated door.
It was, mate. It really, really was. We thank you.